By the early 1960s, American espionage was no longer experimental. It was systematic, permanent, global. Intelligence was no longer something gathered occasionally. It flowed constantly, day and night, across borders, oceans, and continents. Inside Washington, intelligence briefings became as important as military reports. Every major decision was shaped by what spies had seen, heard, or intercepted. And nowhere would this invisible war prove more decisive than in the skies above the Caribbean. In October of 1962, routine reconnaissance flights over the Caribbean revealed something extraordinary. American intelligence analysts studying aerial photographs noticed unusual construction patterns on the island of Cuba. Long structures, launch platforms, equipment that did not belong to defensive installations. These images were not dramatic at first glance, but to trained eyes, they told a terrifying story. The Soviet Union was placing nuclear missiles within striking distance of the United States. The discovery did not come from diplomats or public announcements. It came from espionage. High-altitude reconnaissance aircraft, including the Lockheed U-2, had quietly exposed one of the greatest threats in human history. For the first time, nuclear weapons were positioned just minutes away from American cities. Inside the White House, intelligence reports changed the tone of everything. What had been a distant geopolitical rivalry suddenly became an immediate existential crisis. The world was not reacting to speculation, it was reacting to photographs. For 13 days, humanity stood closer to nuclear war than ever before. And throughout that crisis, espionage guided every move. What to say, what not to say, when to escalate, when to pause. Without intelligence, there would have been no negotiation, only assumptions. And assumptions, in a nuclear standoff, could mean extinction. The Cuban Missile Crisis permanently cemented espionage as the backbone of American national security. From that moment on, intelligence would never again be treated as secondary. The United States responded by expanding its surveillance capabilities, far beyond anything the world had seen. While the CIA continued operating in the shadows through agents and covert actions, another organization quietly grew into a surveillance giant, the National Security Agency, known as the NSA. Unlike the CIA, the NSA did not rely on human spies. It listened. Phone calls, radio transmissions, military signals, electronic communications. Anything that moved through the air as a signal became a target. Across the globe, listening stations were constructed in strategic locations. Some were built openly on Allied soil, others operated quietly, unknown even to the governments hosting them. Under the oceans, communication cables were monitored. In space, satellites began to watch from above. The planet itself became a network, and the United States was listening. Espionage was no longer limited to enemies. Allies were monitored as well. Because in the logic of the Cold War, alliances could shift overnight. Trust was temporary, information was permanent. With this constant flow of intercepted data, American intelligence agencies built detailed profiles of foreign leaders, their habits, their fears, their private conversations. Espionage transformed diplomacy. Negotiations were no longer blind. American officials often entered talks already knowing the other side's position, weaknesses, and internal disagreements. Behind closed doors, intelligence shaped outcomes long before diplomats shook hands. But surveillance was only one side of the equation. Espionage was also used to influence events directly. Information gathered by the CIA and NSA was fed into covert operations designed to steer political outcomes abroad. Elections, protests, power struggles. Intelligence identified pressure points inside foreign governments, economic instability, public dissatisfaction, factional conflicts. Once identified, those weaknesses could be exploited. Money was funneled, media narratives were influenced, opposition groups were quietly supported, all without American troops ever setting foot on the ground. To the public, governments fell due to internal unrest. Behind the scenes, espionage had laid the groundwork. At the same time, fear of Soviet infiltration led to intensified surveillance inside the United States itself. Scientists working on sensitive projects, military officers, government employees. The possibility of espionage within America created an atmosphere of suspicion. Information leaks were treated as existential threats. Loyalty became a matter of national survival. As technology advanced, espionage became even more precise. Miniature listening devices, hidden cameras, encrypted communications. Intelligence agencies no longer waited for events to happen, they tried to predict them. Patterns were analyzed, behavior was studied, future decisions were anticipated. Espionage shifted from reaction to prediction. This gave the United States a powerful advantage, but it also pushed intelligence operations into ethically dangerous territory. Because as surveillance expanded, boundaries blurred between foreign and domestic, between defense and intrusion, between protection and control. By the late Cold War, espionage was no longer just about gathering information, it was about shaping reality itself. And soon, the drive to control information would go even further, beyond governments, beyond communications, into the human mind.